Welcome to Exhuming the Truth, the podcast where we delve into the mysterious worlds of cold cases, missing persons, true crime, and the fascinating science that is forensics. I'm forensic scientist and criminologist Asha Walther, and I am so thrilled to have you with me on this journey as we dance in the shadows of the world of crime, shining a light on scientific discovery while becoming another voice for those who need it most. So grab a drink and get comfortable while we jump into this episode together. As always, this podcast is recommended for persons over the age of 18 and contains explicit content not suitable for minors. We will be covering sensitive content that ranges from sexual assault, physical, mental, social, emotional, and psychological abuse, suicide, homicide, murder, attempted murder, and other violent crimes, including crimes involving weapons and drugs. This often extends to drug misuse and other harmful and illegal activity. If you find any content to be distressing, I have listed a number of resources that may be able to help you in the podcast notes. I'd also like to finally remind our listeners that all victims and all offenders are someone's loved one, so I ask that in any discussions in our group or on our social accounts that you remain respectful of that at all times. And by listening today, you also acknowledge that all persons of interest remain innocent until proven otherwise. Hey guys, happy Thursday. I gave you guys free rein basically to choose the topic for tonight's episode because I had a couple of ideas lingering and I, put it out into the universe, which was my first mistake, jinxing myself, saying I've got the day to myself, so you choose and I am at your service, thinking that my children were actually going to survive the day at school after having a couple of weeks off being incredibly unwell. However, mere moments after I posted that, the school did call me to come and collect my youngest son. So I got both of them at the same time. It's just we're not all healthy at the moment. He's otherwise fine. He's kind of just recovering from his sickness, I guess. But yes, I put this together anyway. And this is, again, much like many of the other episodes, one that I want to talk more about in later episodes. This one that I have chosen, or that you have chosen, essentially, this case is actually the case that gave me the courage to branch out as Exhuming the Truth on my own. When this all transpired in 2022, I had graduated and I was working for an overseas company in a really great job. But it was all as volunteer work. It was all unpaid and a lot of my time and effort. And I kind of had been hoping to go off and do my own thing, but just didn't have the confidence in myself, I guess, or know how to execute it. Anyway, come this case, and it really got me. The story really, really got me. I think there's always a story or a situation, like these, that there's always that one that people get stuck on, and this was that one for me. It really upset me. It inspired a lot of the advocacy work that I do around family and domestic violence. Without going into too much detail, I am a victim survivor of family and domestic violence, as are so many people in this country. So I am going to give a trigger warning because this is really, really awful. I mean, every story that I tell of other people, it's their story, I suppose, but I always like to tell it respectfully, and, you do jump on here knowing that things are going to be obviously a bit uncomfortable, but yeah, for me, this case hits home, and I know there are a lot of victim survivors of family domestic violence, so I just want to give that little extra warning in case you need it. But thank you for requesting this, and I'm glad you chose this one, and it's also fresh in the news again, just due to the court proceedings, so we'll get into that. So welcome to The Fight Is Not Over. That's right. We are talking about Mackenzie Anderson. She was the victim in this case. She was aged 21. The offender was her ex-boyfriend, Tyrone Thompson, who was aged 25 at the time. Mackenzie and Tyrone were actually a couple on and off between 2019 and 2021. And at the time of her death, Mackenzie did have a toddler. Now, a bit of context. So we're going to Mayfield, and I'll take you back to March 2022, 16 days after Tyrone Thompson was released on parole for previously abusing Mackenzie, despite having a court-issued AVO, which is Apprehended Violence Order. Tyrone began consistently and immediately communicating with Mackenzie upon his release. So Tyrone was, of course, banned from contact with Mackenzie, but the court revealed he didn't last a single day. I have in quotations, as soon as the offender was released, he called the deceased. He said that he was coming for her and he loved her. Now, Mackenzie had taken to social media the day of his release, which was March the 9th in 2022, and saying, I quote, "I'm okay. My ex Tyrone just got out of jail from what he did to me and is still being weird and harassing me. He couldn't even last 24 hours. Now, just while we're on that, after this had happened and we all knew the names of the victim and the offender, you were able to sort of do a bit more independent research, whether you did or you didn't. I did, so I can give you some insight. Mackenzie is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous young lady. She appears to be a very happy, bright, great mother, and she did post quite a few videos and photos, and when I say videos, I mean not really her sitting there talking to the camera, just like TikTok kind of videos, where she would show the injuries that she had received from Tyrone, which obviously warranted his jail time for that abuse. So there is quite a bit out there, whether it's still there or not, I'm not sure, but I do remember looking at the videos and it really, really broke my heart. Now, come the evening of that date, so March the 9th, he became volatile. Now, I'm not entirely sure. There's a couple of conflicting dates around the actual date that this happened, so I'm not going to give you an exact date. He was released on the 9th of March, but I'm just going to say in March of 2022. He became volatile. Now, this is obviously after his release. He reportedly used a ladder to gain entry into Mackenzie's home. So Mackenzie lived with her child. So he got a ladder, used that to gain access to the home, and that sparked a distressing 000 call from Mackenzie. So once he had entered her residence, Tyrone took Mackenzie's phone and he had actually texted her mother, Tabitha, saying, and I quote, "I'm with her. She wants me to talk to you." Now, she has phoned 000 and she has said, "My ex-boyfriend has broken in. I have woken up to him in my house, like I have an AVO on him." Now, during this call, Tyrone could be heard in the background saying, "Hang up, Mackenzie." To which she responded, "No, stay away from me, stay away from me." She replied twice, telling him to leave. He then grabbed the keys from the internal deadlock on the front door and he ran from the complex with the keys. Mackenzie proceeded to yell for someone to get to him and get her keys off him. She's still on the phone at this point and she had told the operator that he had stolen the keys and that he had come at her with a knife, and he'd actually taken knives out in the kitchen and laid them on the table prior to this. And during this time, Mackenzie had also texted one of her female friends saying that Tyrone had come at her with a knife. Now, by 10:48 p.m., he had returned again, so Mackenzie texted the same friend and had alerted them that he had returned. The friend then decided to run back to the unit as they had previously been with Mackenzie that night. So this female friend ran back to the unit and attempted to open the front door. And when she did manage to get in and open the door, she found Mackenzie laying on the ground covered in blood with Tyrone standing over her and stabbing her. Now, Mackenzie had endured 78 stab wounds in this brutal attack by Tyrone, and the police arrived on scene at 10:53 p.m. So that was about 14 minutes after Mackenzie had made that 000 call. And then we have in quotations here of what Tyrone said to the police. Again, in quotations, "It took as many times to stab her till she fucking stopped," he told police. That was the end of it. Now, I'm going to get into the legals here. Tyrone did plead guilty to murder, obviously, and Mackenzie's friend obviously was there to act as witness. Mackenzie's loved ones delivered incredibly emotional victim impact statements, as you can imagine. Her mother was obviously beside herself, and she tearfully revealed that the knives that were used to kill Mackenzie were those of a Christmas gift to Mackenzie. So she was very emotional, as we can all understand or imagine. The victim impact statements also basically told the court of the really disgusting history of the prolonged abuse that Mackenzie endured from Tyrone, and they emphasised the deep and incredibly emotional toll that had on their family, and obviously the events of her murder have had on the family. Now, in recent events in the last few days, the New South Wales Court of Appeal refused, that's right, the New South Wales Court of Appeal refused to increase the sentence of Tyrone Thompson, okay? His original sentence was 22.5 years for murder. 22.5 years. How embarrassing. And that would be with eligibility for parole after serving just 15.5 years, you guys. So the New South Wales Director of Public Prosecutions, or the DPP, he appealed seeking a harsher penalty, which is why it's coming back in the news again, because they have appealed that decision. And the appeal judges upheld the sentence, which is just disgusting, actually. And that ruling basically implies that the legal system values Thompson's future more than Mackenzie's life. So Mackenzie's heartbroken mother, Tabitha, she described the day of the appeal decision as deeply painful and expressed overwhelming outrage, disappointment, sadness, and all of those horrible, horrible emotions of being let down by the system once again. Feelings that she said words cannot capture. Despite the setback, she remains resolute in saying that she's not going to stop. She tells everybody that the fight is not over, and she vows to continue to advocate not just for Mackenzie but for women all across Australia. She's obviously in the face of this incredible injustice. How can you, and it's not even just take into account, you know what I mean? He had been serving time for abusing her. He had a restraining order there, and that did absolutely nothing. He's then come and gone and contacted her straight away. He stabbed her to death. She got 78 stab wounds. This is a psychopath. 22.5 years. What the hell is that going to do? And like I said, he'll be eligible for parole at 15.5 years, which likely, because he is a young man, they will turn around and say, oh, he's got so much life ahead of him. Yes, we'll make him eligible when, his period comes up and it goes to the parole board, which is the thought of it just infuriates me. Now, this case, basically, my little rant is about the case highlighting the perceived failures in the justice system regarding femicide sentencing. It's just not enough. I cannot give you more words than that. This is not enough. The leniency of this sentence and its preservation on appeal underscore the systemic issues around accountability for violence against women in this country. How more, we just can't be any more clear. I'm losing my own words because I'm so passionate about this, and it makes me sick, it makes me sad, and it makes me mad. Mackenzie's child's going to grow up without a mother, and grow up knowing that their mother was brutally murdered. This is lifelong grief. Grief doesn't just go away. Tabitha, Mackenzie's mother, she's never going to recover from this. This is a life sentence for her, and it needs to be a life sentence for him. He knew what he was doing. I'm sorry, this is just not good enough. It's not acceptable. And I read today in this awful but insightful document from the Femicide Watch in Australia that the deadliest place for a woman to be is at home. The deadliest place for a woman to be is at home. We can't be okay with this. And because this story hits home for me and for our country, because it is such a crisis, I want to share with you something a little bit different. And it is a bit of a It's a writing piece that you could maybe classify as a bit of a poem, but it is a letter that I have written on behalf of me and the system and our injustices in the country, and, on behalf of anyone with a heart, to Mackenzie and all of the other sisters who have endured this, whether they have come out the other side or not. But more so, this is something I've put together for Mackenzie, and I would really love to share it with you. A letter to the sisters. My dearest sisters, though you are scattered now across the silent constellations, I write to you as one still tethered to the earth's uglier side. The courts may have reduced you to footnotes. The headlines may have hollowed your names into single lines. But in the marrow of my bones, I carry your pain. Every breath I take is a witness. Every scar, a testimony. You lived inside storms no one else could see. Love promised to you with one hand, while the other hand drew blood. And when you cried out for refuge, the walls of the system answered with silence. A silence so heavy it turned your hope into lead. But know this, your voices did not vanish into the air. They became roots beneath us, pushing up against the soil, reminding those of us still walking that truth does not die, it grows wild. I imagine you not as a victim, but as a secret historian of heartbreak, as a keeper of the unspeakable. Your absence is not an emptiness, it's a cathedral. And in its stained glass windows I see the faces of children who will someday speak your name with reverence, not pity. They will learn that love should never wear a blade as a crown, that devotion should never carry the stench of fear. Tonight, I place my hand on the cold stone of this world's injustices, and I whisper, I will not let you be forgotten. Your stories are the river I walk beside, sometimes gentle, sometimes flooding. And though the law may have measured your worth in years too small to count as justice, we measure you in galaxies. We measure you in poems and in the trembling breath of every survivor who still finds the strength to stay. So rest, my sisters, wherever you are, in the hush of the earth, in the hush of the sky. Know that your fight did not end in your final hour. We carry it forward, ragged but unyielding. And when they tell us to quiet down, to forgive and to forget, we will answer with your names, as if they were battle hymns, because the fight is not over, and because of you, it never will be. With love from one who is surviving, but who will never stop mourning. Thank you so much for joining us on this new episode. You can subscribe to stay up to date, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. You can help us out by subscribing to our paid episodes on Spotify or making a donation to allow us to help more families. You can also join in on the case discussions and make case requests in our Facebook group. You can find the link to in our podcast notes. You can also take a look at our current cases on our website. But as always, stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, trust your instincts and keep seeking the truth.